in the state. Both of them feel like they were won because of that, and that people want to have vouchers in the state. Vouchers does not help rural Oklahoma. Okay? I mean, if you're going to go to a private school, where are you going to go from Alva? Where? Huh? Hillsdale? Hillsdale's the closest. Is that the closest one? Hillsdale. And so, just a little interesting fact. I've counted this last week. So right now, currently, the state of Oklahoma schools were 48th in the nation. Okay? So let's just do this. Let's take out the Tulsa school district. Uh-oh, we moved to 25th in the nation. Let's take out the Tulsa and the Oklahoma City school districts. We're 15th in the nation then. The problem isn't rural Oklahoma. The problem is more in those areas. And that's why they keep touting the vouchers, because there are some problems in the metro areas. Okay? And so, but I don't know that the private schools are going to accept all the ones they're wanting to ship to them anyway. So that's another misconception I feel like is happening out there. But the governor last year touted here comes Senator Murdock, I think. And anyway, he touted a 450, I don't remember what the voucher bill was last year. It was about $450 million. Okay? And so, anyway, that voucher bill was introduced in the Senate, and Senator Murdock was a no on the voucher bill, and there was a lot of them that got beat up because they were no's on that, and he was one of them. Okay? So, anyway, the House has come up with a plan, okay? And it's big, okay? But here's what we did. First of all, we divided the pie different ways. There's $150 million that's going to go in the formula. He lets you go?
You know, I want to make a grand entrance, but when Carl said it was going to be at the fourth place, I thought it's apropos to pull up in a Ford and let you all see that.
So, we divided the pie different ways. Our proposal, this is truly a House proposal from our side to the Senate and to the governor. And so the governor says he is not opposed to our proposal, but I mean, this is a initial proposal that was released as of yesterday, right? Came out yesterday. We went it through committee yesterday, so this is that new. So you're hearing it firsthand. So, I want to get my numbers correct.
Turn right onto Oklahoma Boulevard.
Get your numbers correct.
Have arrived. Can you put have arrived on there? Okay, so public schools. Here's what the public school is going to get, or the public portion of it. $150 million for increased teacher salaries. It would be a $2,500 increase in teacher salaries for all teachers. Okay. There's a $50 million for Redbud school grants. Now, Redbud are the top 100 schools with the lowest ad valorem, which includes some of the charter schools. And so there's $50 million in that, and that's considered part of public ed. And then, now the $150 million goes on the formula. The first $150 million goes on the formula. And so that affects Alva, right? Because Alva's not on the formula, correct?
Not on the top half.
Not on the bottom. They're on the bottom half, right? Not you won't get, definitely not going to get Redbud.
Right.
But they're on the bottom half, and so that puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage. So, what our concern is rural Oklahoma. Okay, all the House members, a majority of the Republican House members are from rural Oklahoma. Most of the ones that are getting or metro are on the Democratic side. So we wanted to put out $300 million, not want to, but felt we needed to put $300 million per student, okay? But we also capped it at no school will get more than $2 million, okay? And I have a photo to tell you what you would get. Alva Public Schools would get, let me get my picture to come up. Let me get my glass up here. $958 million, $958,000. You like the 958 million better? All right, but $958,000 is what Alva Public Schools would get, okay? And so that was part of that 300. We based it on per student basis, and we capped it at $2 million per school. So some of our big schools are fussing at us because we didn't give them for the same amount. But really, you got to look at facilities and what you have to do, right? How much busing do we have to do in Alva? Quite a little bit, and stuff like that. And so it gets cheaper, as you guys know in manufacturing business, it gets cheaper if you have multiple of the same product. You can do it for a cheaper product. And I'm sorry, a poor analogy with kids and that, but the idea is you have one facility for all these. So that's the $300 million. And they can use it for, sorry, it's real small, teacher and staff, STEM, which would be science, technology, engineering, and math, textbooks and curriculum, computers, additional instructional space. It'd be fees for testing and standards, special summer or after-school programs, students, services, and then concurrent enrollment with colleges like Northwestern. So that would be there. That would be part of that. Now, there's an additional part that would be the $300 million. The whole package is $800 million, which I think is quite a little bit to swallow, isn't it? Yeah. And so the other $300 million is for private schools and homeschoolers. So it would be a tax credit. So if you had private schools, their parents would get a tax credit of $5,000 per student per year. If they only went one semester, they only get $2,500 credit. If they went the whole year, it'd be $500. Those that are at homeschool, which last year when they ran the voucher bill, homeschool wanted to be left out of it, right? This one would allow homeschoolers to get $2,500 a year because they don't have to put forth facilities and stuff like that. They're just using their home. But they would get $2,500 a year for homeschoolers. So giving you all that, that is the proposal that we have as far as the house package. The majority of the money will stay, will get to public schools. It will also get more to rural schools than it will metro schools. And so that is why our incentive is, because we're more concerned about our rural schools. And it seemed like some of them are more interested in taking care of Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Yes, we currently have over a $4 billion surplus, but Senator Murdock and I have both lived through that short time where we had shortfalls. There is a deal in there where if there is a shortfall, that money from the private schools, and that would be decreased during those shortfall times. And I can't get into all the details on that because, again, this is just a House proposal. So we're giving this to the, well, we haven't got it passed through the House yet. So, but it did come out of committee. I was on the A and B committee. We went in at 2 o'clock, got out at 5 o'clock. Talked about two bills, and both of them were this one, regarding this one. And so it just got out of the Appropriations and Budget Committee yesterday at 5 o'clock. And so it has not even hit the House floor. So you're going to start hearing things, but I'm just letting you know what's happening at the Capitol right now. I mean, that's what happened yesterday. And so there's a lot of other things to talk about. I know that we want to talk about things you want to do, but I'm going to give you what is new, and I think education takes the majority of our money, so I thought it would be nice for you to see what's going on out there in education. So I'm going to turn it over to him, to let him talk, and then we'll take questions because we want to hear what you guys want to talk about too. So, Senator, you're on.
So for some reason, I kind of feel like Sarah Huckabee Sanders and come back with a retort of what Joe Biden wants to do. I told Carl I was going to do that. I said, don't take it personally. I'm going to throw the house under the bus. So the Senate found out about this yesterday. And you guys have heard me give speeches about the process at the Capitol, how it's a good process. It's frustrating, but even though you think you have a great plan when you're starting session, just by the idea going through the entire process, by the time you get to the end, you've actually got a good piece of legislation. And I think that's what we're going to see with this proposal from the House. While they were doing their press conference and beating it through committee process, we were in caucus talking about what they just did to us. Because $850 million is a big pill to swallow. So I think, and I'm giving you the Senate's perspective, there's some tweaks that needs to be made. There's some things that we talked about. Last year's voucher bill that went out there, I think that cost was going to be $280 million. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's about where that was what that was going to cost. But the pro tem had a cap, income cap. If you made more than $150,000, you didn't qualify for this. I think we need something like this in this proposal, because
I'll agree with that.
if you're living in Gaillardia and you got 4 kids going to private school and you're bringing in $1 million a year, you need that, which would be $20,000 a year. You really need that. But you would be financially irresponsible if your accountant didn't apply for that, if you qualify. I think we need some caps in there. One thing, now, our A and B chair, I'm sure they're talking to their A and B chair, but our A and B chair said, after we do this, as is, we're at about $356 million left. The budget meetings I've been in, the bills I've seen going through committee on the Senate side, the fiscal costs, $1 million here, $1 million there, $10 million here. We're going to chew up that $350 million extra that we have for other programs in the state.
That's within our appropriation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're
So
not using up all the reserve.
exactly. But we need that reserve because, like Carl said, him and I both went through some tough times in Oklahoma when we were having to cut because we didn't have enough money to pay the bills. I just want to approach this a little more cautious because went through those bad times. And one thing that worries me is this is every year. This is going to be a reoccurring cost. What concerns me is we come into a bad budget year and we reduce this. We're gonna not just have educators calling us saying you're cutting our budget. We're gonna have those parents of those private school. Hey, where's my money? I think we need to, there's just a lot to go through, and we're just at the starting line. I was visiting with my wife last night about it, and I said, in all honesty, this is a good time to do this, because this gives us all session to work on it and tweak it and make it the best product we can. It's a lot better. I know last year things were dropped in May, and they might have been a good idea, but we couldn't tweak it. We had 20 days, 15 days to try to fix it. We've got all session to tweak this and try to make it a good product. I will not stand up here and say we don't need to stick more money in education. I'm not going to say that. It's just we got to be careful because we have other responsibilities in the state. I'm on the road a lot. I drive across a lot of roads. We need to start paying attention to some roads. We've got healthcare needs. We've got, I mean, there's a lot of needs in the state, and I feel like my job is to manage your tax dollars the best way that we can manage it. And we've got a wide spectrum of responsibilities to take care of. That's not even 24 hours since I've known about this plan, so that's my take within 12 hours of knowing what their plan is. So I think we'll get something to the end. I think one of the questions I asked in caucus yesterday is where the governor was going to be, because you know it's a three-legged stool down there. You got the governor, you got the House, and you got the Senate, and if he starts leaning in and pushing this, then you know the political game comes in, and that's kind of the House and the governor pushing. That's momentum, and so that is one thing I think the governor is going to be behind this. So I think we'll get something done on this. You want to move into? While this is fresh on y'all's mind, let's take questions on this issue.
Okay.
Do you want to do that? Because I mean, everybody's fresh. Yeah, I know for me, as I get older, I forget. Even in caucus, you know, had everybody asking questions, and I knew I had a couple of questions, and they came to me, and I asked the first question. I said, you know, you took so long to get to me, I forgot what my other question was. So that's why it's fresh on their mind. Let's take questions on this, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. Any questions on the education?
What do you stand on higher ed?
Huh?
How much money is going to come to higher ed? Increase, decrease?
Well, it's way back there.
Yeah, Todd, I don't know exactly. This is all Common Ed right now that we're talking about. There is a request by higher ed for some more money. There would be some money come to Northwestern because they have that $300 million. They can use that on concurrent enrollment. And I mean, not everybody may know what concurrent enrollment. That's when you can enroll in a college course while you're going to high school. That is offered free to the students, but it costs the school some. It costs Northwestern some and stuff like that. And so basically it's the idea we can get these kids started quicker. I mean, we had a bunch of kids, FCCLA kids, and I had some of them coming through, and career tech kids coming.
Well, it's great for parents because they can. I know my niece was doing that, and she went into college as a sophomore. When you think about the cost of college, most of it's in housing and food, and so you get the parents get to knock out a year of that cost off of the budget of going to college.
So as far as this plan that we've been talking about here, the all common ed, the only part that would go to higher ed would be that part for the concurrent enrollment in this scenario right here.
And we have a fight coming on current enrollment. I'm going to try to kill this bill early on in the Senate. I'll talk about that when we circle back around. But remind me.
Go ahead and talk about it now. You don't hit it now.
Okay, I'll hit it now. So there is a bill out there to allow the big colleges, OU and OSU, to start reaching into that pot of concurrent enrollment. The issue I have with that, the state pays for that current enrollment. They reimburse. It's free, right? OU and OSU is going to charge their cost for those hours. So what's current enrollment hour cost here at Northwestern? The sheet it was Northeastern, it was $97 an hour. There was another college, $197 an hour. It was twice the cost to the state. Well, as legislators in this program, we budget this pool of money for this program. What scares me is you have OU, OSU, these big colleges, the high-ticket colleges that come in and lap up all those funds, and use them up, and we'll miss some kids, or we're back there putting more money into it. I think back to taking care of the taxpayer, the best use for that money, and it helps our small schools, our small colleges. Leave it where it's at, keep the big guys out, and let our small schools, our small colleges, utilize that current enrollment.
Why not put a cap on what you allow?
That could be a good idea too, because, I mean, the kid's not actually going to the brick and mortar, he's sitting at
You're not
home.
telling the parents they can't go, but they have a choice as to which they're going to pay, I mean, if they want to
Yeah.
pay into going to a private, like SNU, that's private, then you would have, they could pay the extra tuition.
My take is that, first of all, concurrent enrollment gets, especially right now, Northwestern does a lot of it, correct? Yes. And talking about Dr. Hannaford and all that, it also makes a connection with those students in high school with Northwestern.
Right, but it's not, but the people in Stillwater, you're
Right.
telling them, I mean, the students, like the students in Alva,
Yeah.
I can understand, but if you put a cap on it, then the parents could go, well, you know,
I like
tuition
that,
be
I
half-
actually like that idea, I think we'll
Tuition
have.
could be half, tuition
Yeah.
be half price what we would normally pay.
But, I mean, that's part, yeah, I agree with the cap, because.
I like that idea, I
they
think you'll have
they'd
pushback
lose-
from OU and.
They'd have less
That-
interest. They'd have less interest in it, so. But, okay, back to the common ed, questions.
The tax credit only helps you if you owe taxes.
That's right. It is
So
refundable.
it is refundable, so if you are, if you're me, and I had to buy a lot of hay this year, which I did, I'm not worried about paying taxes this year, because I have a ton of expenses. And I'm sending my kid to a private school, I get a check from the tax commission.
It is refundable, yeah. So if you didn't pay the taxes, you get the money back.
So how much more is what you're proposing than what we have for the schools and stuff? I mean,
Right now, it's $800 million more to common education.
and so you're expanding what?
We're expanding the budget, yes.
So is there any chance of a little better coordination between career tech and public school? I know that kids that get to participate in Audrey's text district have access to teachers from the Oklahoma School of Science and Math. For those classes, those kids can go to Enid instead of going to Oklahoma City to live. Is there any chance in kind of parlaying that into maybe the other tech centers, or even into our high school classrooms for that science and math education?
Ken, we had an Oklahoma School of Science and Math outreach program here at Northwest Tech, probably when I came here in 2009 or 10. Didn't have enough kids in it. We had 1-2 kids, all that we had that was going through that program. So the Oklahoma School of Science, they called them mini awesomes is what they did. And so they put those out in some different schools. It just didn't work here in terms of kids that wanted to take that curriculum. And that's why it's not here.
How long ago was that there?
10 years, 7 years. And at that time is when we pivoted and we started our biomedical science program. And so that was a program that really offered an advanced curriculum to the middle out. And so the Oklahoma School of Science curriculum was really structured for the top 5%. And so many of those kids that we find in rural schools are involved in so many activities, whether it's FFA, whether it's sports, whether it's the arts. And that curriculum really tied them down where it was impossible to do all the things in rural schools they wanted to do.
And so, I mean, the career tech's, the nice thing about career tech, which I love, you can emphasize in your area what you need, what is needed in that area. I mean, I've also High Plains Technology Centers in our district, and they have the TAP program, which I really like. And they have 5th and 6th graders come over there, and they learn basic life skills, how to change a tire, how to how an engine runs, how to run a 3D printer, how to use a drone. There's some of the things you don't get to do in a regular school. So I know that Northwest looks at different things and so, but yeah, that's what's unique about the career tech, that each one focuses in different areas. So yeah, but thank you for that question. Any other questions on the education bill? Right, do you want to talk about what you got going on, or you may talk about
You
mine?
go ahead.
Okay, currently, legislature, just give you an update of some of the legislation I'm running. I passed through committee is now, I don't like saying this, but I don't like taxes personally, but guess what? Sometimes we need them for certain things. And we have a lot of counties, and I have had 3 out of the 5 counties reach out to me and their EMS systems in need for money to work and keep moving forward. We keep asking EMS to improve their technology, their equipment, and response times and stuff like that, and cover all the areas. So what I am proposing is a bill that a county can vote in, increase their sales tax. A county can, if they choose to. The margin right now, we're looking at it, it may be 60%, it may be a 55% vote, or it may be a 50% vote. There's some negotiating on that. But the idea is that I know in Alfalfa County, we raised the sales tax over there a 1/4 cent. Made a huge difference in our ambulance service and EMS service. So I'm allowing this, if passed, would allow a county to do that if that's what they felt needed for their county. Can be up to 1 cent. Now, I got pushback from Municipal League, and they're saying, well, my cities, which I understand, cities live off sales tax. That's what they have to do. But they said, well, why don't we just make it a rural sales tax? Well, I don't know who you're going to tax in rural America, because everybody goes to town to buy things. And so I don't think that makes it feasible. It makes it less feasible. And so, anyway, it would also fund all ambulance services, even those in town. So, anyway, my push right now is where I'm at on that one. I still have most of you guys already know about my 14-year-old farm kid driver's license. I'm doing a little change on it. It passed the House, got over the Senate, and got held up. A farmer would have to have a farm tax exemption to be able to be classified as one of the farms they could work for. And so if they're really, we just didn't want hobby farmers to have their kids run around town, okay? And he said, well, I sent them to do that. We want it to be a legit idea. Farmers have problems. Well, all industry has problems getting people to work for them. If I'm working on my tractor breaks down and I'm up here working on it, and I need my son Tim to run to town to get some oil to put in it, because I'm have to, had to pull drain the oil or something like that. If I don't have him and he's 14 years old, I've got to stop, drive into town, get the oil, and then come back. So I've lost an hour. Whereas if I can send him in and out, which I don't know how many of you guys, farm kids, didn't drive it at 14, right? And so, anyway, I'm just making it legal, basically what I'm doing. And so, anyway, that is on there. I'm trying to think of some of the other bills I've got. My mind goes blank. I have a list. Anyway, I'll let you talk about some of yours, and then I can come back to mine.
Okay.
We haven't opened questions.
Well, Carl and I work together on a lot of things, and him giving his speech, like, oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna talk about too. So, we make a pretty good team down there, which is good for you. I know when I was in the House, I did not work well with our senator, and it seemed like we were fighting all the time. And it's good that your senator and rep have the relationship that Carl and I have, because I didn't have that relationship with the senator we had when I was in the House. And it just seemed like I was fighting him as hard as I was fighting the urban guys. So the EMS, so Carl's got that portion of it, I've got a bill that will change their retirement. Put them on the same retirement as police and fire. I didn't realize they wouldn't, but your EMS, they came to me and visited with me about it, and I was shocked that they wasn't on the same retirement. But they said, we're losing people because they're moving to fire because they can retire in 20 years. And, you know, that job for them is just as physical as a police or fire, but they're having to stay there longer. And, you know, you see me with this brace, I had a little four-wheeler incident. Can you imagine if that EMS guy's 62 years old, he's got a couple more years before he can retire, has to try to load my big butt in the ambulance? He'd have struggled. So I've got that bill that will reduce their retirement. It passed, or get 20 years instead of 30 years, same as police and fire. It passed the insurance committee. It's got to go to an actuary. So that studies to see what the effect is going to be for their insurance or for their retirement plan. And so that's headed there. It takes a year to do that, so it will come out next year so we can actually get it done. It's at the actuary now. So wait and see, but I don't think there's going to be any harm to the retirement system. I think it'll be fine, so I think we can go ahead and get this across the line. So last year, the voucher vote, I voted against it. I was punished. People that voted against that bill was punished. What irritated me about the punishment, and you watched the vote, did you, on the floor? 2 hours they held that open. The reason they held that open 2 hours, you had the pro tem who was running the bill and his people twisting arms.
And the governor.
And the governor, yeah, I got a phone call from the governor that night. Putting pressure on to get you to switch the vote. I didn't. Got punished. What made me mad about this, and I sat there and I told the pro tem, I'm voting my district. My district does not want this. What irritated me about the punishment, and you hear me all the time talk about the process down there, the 30,000 foot view of what our capital does, what it's meant to do. Well, by punishing me, and by punishing other members that said, no, we're a no on this, is he's muzzling my district. He's muzzling the will of my district for what an Edmond senator wants. For me, that's not okay. Me and several other people decided it's time for a change. This is not how the Senate should be ran. A member should be able to vote his district without the threat of being punished. Because at the end of the day, he's muzzling you when he does that. If I'm scared to vote your way because I'm going to lose something, what kind of representation do you have at the Capitol? So we ran somebody against him. We lost by one vote. Well, because the pro tem has the personality that he does, I'm no longer a chairman. He's put me basically in political Siberia down there. But one thing he forgot, he didn't win with the mandate. We're still 19 strong. Our people are still a force to be reckoned with. We still have power. I told him, well, I had a group of kids from Panhandle State came down. And they said, what are you most proud of your accomplishments down here? I said, my door. And they go, what? I said, there's nothing on my door. There's no chairman on the door. There's no vice chair. I said, I'm proud of that. Because I stood up for principles. I stood up for my people. That's what I'm most proud of. We were filing bills, deadline, and I was down there. My wife called me. She goes, how are you doing? How are you handling this? I'm like, I'm fine. I told her, I said, I can go home when I term out, and I can look myself in the mirror. I didn't compromise my principles. I stood up for my principles, and I stood up for my district. I'm fine with it. So, with that being said, it's going to be a little rough year this year. I went into the pro tem's office this week and trying to help some other members that's being punished. And I said, if you want things to go smooth, you need to kind of move them back on the committees that they are experts at. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And I said, okay, I just thought this would help session, because, you know, those people, if you all paid attention last year, it was not good in the Senate. The House was the adults in the building. It was a bad year last year. I thought maybe you would like to have a good year, because these guys are mad still, and we're going to have a bumpy road. He wasn't going to do it. But we'll see. I mean, it's a beginning. But I wanted to let you guys know why everything got stripped off from me, and it's because I stood up to them down there, and that's what you sent me down there to do. You didn't send me down there to be a yes man for an Edmond senator. You sent me down there to be a yes man to you guys. And if he's going to muzzle my voice, which is your voice at that Capitol, I think you want me to stand up to that. And we still, because our numbers are so strong in the Senate, we can still get things done. It's a chess game now. This week I got a little hot on an issue, and I walk in my office and I'm, wanting to throw something, wanting to punch the wall. And I just kind of took a deep breath. I'm like, no, it's time to just look at the chessboard. And it's going to be a chess game for me in the Senate on getting bills through and just different maneuvers that needs to happen. It's just going to be a chess game. With that being said, one other bill that I have is the gun manufacturer bill. It's where banks have discriminated against gun manufacturers. So they have policies that if you manufacture guns, if you're a gun store that sells guns to anyone under 21, they will not loan you money. If you're Remington Firearms and you can't get capital to run your factory, you're out of business. I mean, on the gun control movement, it's a brilliant move if you're for gun control, because if you can't get capital to run your factories, you're out of business. And so this is going on. So this bill states that if you are a business or a bank that has these policies, the state of Oklahoma is not going to do business with you. It's the exact same bill that we did for oil and gas, because you had oil and gas companies being targeted, ESGs. It has nothing to do with your bottom line, your cash flow, your profit margins. It's because a bank does not agree with you politically. That's wrong. I had the Bankers Association in my office last year. I ran this bill last year, saying, don't run this bill, don't run this bill. And I said, do you not see what this is? And I'm sitting in my office in Oklahoma City. Agriculture's number 2 in driving our economy. I said, what? Have you watched the news the last 4 or 5 years? And the climate change? I how they say cow parks are ruining the climate. And I know it's funny, but there's people that actually believe this. And I said, what happens when they decide cattle are bad for our climate, and we're not going to loan money to ranchers or farmers? And I know that sounds crazy, but if I told you 5 years ago that you're going to have to wear masks, we're going to shut the whole country down, you're going to have to inject a foreign substance into you, you'd have called me crazy 5 years ago if I'd have told you that. But that's what worries me, and it's not right when you target a business because you don't agree with them politically. So I've got that bill out there.
Can I hit a couple real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I'm doing one for ag. Right now, commercial, a lot of the products are commercial, have to be commercial applicators to put them on, even if you're putting them on your own pasture. And so I'm allowing it, we're working with Department of Ag, we're gonna make it so that if you're putting it on your own property, you can still use those chemicals, but you would not be able to go on somebody else's property and do that. So it makes sense to me on that one. Another one is I'm doing two with broadband, moving broadband to rural areas. How do you think it's going to get here? Electric poles, right? Well, we're having you have all these different groups fighting about, well, can they put it on my pole or this pole? And so I'm working on we had pole attachments last year, and now we're doing easement on what easement they can put them on and all that. So working on that part. And then also when a broadband line or a broadband work goes across the river, how quick would it be to attach to a bridge and go on across? A lot easier than boring it under the river, right? And as far as cost too. And so we're working with the Department of Transportation to also be able to work on attachments of broadband, and because it's not high voltage, it's not going to kill anybody by touching that. And so by allowing them to be attached to the bridge as it goes across. And so those are some of the things that some of the other bills I'm working on. So questions from you?
Since you got to be going here in a little bit, I want to make sure that you understand the assessors and our board did not agree with the tax exemptions of the saltwater disposal wells and the lines that go past the meter. The meter needs to be the stopping point for exemption on taxes. That's a separate issue when it goes past the meter. That's a different entity. And also, we don't like the idea that they're trying to limit our expert, which is employed by the school districts, the counties, to testify to us as the next equalization board. We don't like that because they put us in a position where we do not have the amount of time that we need to make a good decision with the requirements of not being able to communicate with the assessor prior to our meeting. We don't think that's fair.
Okay.
Just want to make sure you knew that we're setting that.
And that was those two things that they moved through last year, and I think we were a little put behind the 8 ball behind that, because the way they gave it to us is that in the informal, which would be the first one, that he couldn't be the presenter. He can be present. He just can't be the presenter. Okay? The formal one for us, we were told that he could be present and be involved in it. Okay? That's what we were told. But that's not how it happened. The formal that they defined, what they said is informal with the assessor and then the Board of Equalization. Okay? But you guys, with the assessor, says the formal is when they go before the Board of Equalization. And see, that's a different terminology they're using, because it says before the Board of Equalization. So we're kind of hang on, and I'm working on that, by the way, that I think they need to be there. And any other open meetings, he can be present, he can be in the room, he can be there working. We were having some assessors, not Woods County, not Alva County, not Major, and those. We have some assessors that were sending Jerry Wisdom in, and they weren't even doing their job. And they're paying for him third party, you go in and take care of this, I don't even want to talk to him. That's not right. The county assessor needs to be involved in the process. And so that's where we can get some of that. And we did get pushed back. I had a bill last year that didn't get passed, the county assessors would be able to talk between counties.
Yeah, we need that.
Yes.
And
We need that.
but it never got heard. I mean, it didn't get passed. I mean, because the communication, if Woods County's getting so much, you know, per, I don't know what they measure by foot, mile, I don't care, by rod, or whatever they measure it by. Woods County's getting $100 a rod, or $1 a rod, whatever it is, for assessing values, and then, but Alva County's getting $5 a rod. It's not very fair, you know? I think they ought to be able to communicate between assessors. They can't. And so I tried to get that through last year, and it didn't get through. So I thought I was gonna let these others, decisions that they had made, we moved all these protests that we've been having, we moved them out of the courts that they had and moved them to the Court of Tax Appeals, which is supposed to move it through in a more timely manner. Some of the schools had 3 years, 5 years.
Oh, that
Four-
tax,
four-
they haven't even been organized yet.
I know, but 3 and 5 years. And I know Jerry Wisdom and his lawyer buddy are mad at us, but guess what? Your lawyer buddy doesn't get to do it, doesn't get to carry extensions for 5 years and doesn't get paid for that if we can move it through in a more timely manner.
No, misunderstand it. We're for moving it through quick. It's just
Yeah.
that I don't think that court is organized where they can.
We think they can.
Get it?
They're supposed to. Give us a year, okay?
Well, I'm for it. Don't understand me.
I know.
This putting on for 5 years
It's ridiculous.
is ridiculous.
Yeah, because it hamstrings that school for that long.
I think at one time we had 37 million
Yeah.
in protest.
And they can't use any of that money until it's out of protest. So, but I mean, we're working on it. I mean, that court is supposed to move in time and.
It's a good idea.
Give us a year and we'll see what it does. If it not, we're gonna come back and address it. I mean, I gotta give me, that's what I'll say on that, okay? But yes, thank you, Chris. That's good. Those are good points. Yes, ma'am.
House Bill 4466. I'm the project director from the Open Wheels of Oklahoma, and we have.
House Bill 4466.
Yes,
I'm sorry, I don't know what that one was.
I'm coming there.
Okay.
Finally, the state realized our senior citizen center, nutrition center, Title-III program has way too much funding, especially in the Northwestern, and put $2.5 million for 1 year in a special pot. That's the House Bill 4466 for the whole state of Oklahoma. Luckily, the Northwestern gets a bigger portion of, so we finally be able to stabilize our financials somehow.
I'm not, can you come forward a little bit so we can, I can't hear you. Can you understand?
About every third word.
Yeah.
Okay, the House Bill 4466 was made by the state finally after realizing after many years there's not enough state funding for the Title-III programs for the nutrition centers in Oklahoma, and it's $2.5 million. But the House bill is just voted for 1 year right now. We all in Oklahoma, all the projects need this for good, not just for 1 year. Because we will have for this year some money, some extra money, we can make it, but what do we do next year? There are waiting lists already down south in the senior centers where they can go and eat. We luckily are not there yet up here, but it will go there. Even with
Senior
the-
nutrition,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Yes.
senior nutrition.
So there needs to be a permanent vote on the House Bill 4466.
It will probably see an extension of that, they'll probably move it forward.
Well, I hope so.
And so, yeah, you'll probably see that extension happen this year.
'Cause with
A lot of
that-
things we sunset we set it for a year or 2 years, and then we'll extend that sunset, so I mean.
Well, it
there
would
won't
be nicer just to make it permanent, not just extend it.
Yeah, but.
Well, when we have 300 million for education, we should have some money for our seniors who built this state.
I would agree.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I do agree with you. What else? One of the things, just so you know, one of the things is we battled in the Senate. They did it on the House, on the Senate floor, not on the House floor. They did it on the Senate floor, and I had it in the Senate committee this year, is that transgendering. There's a lot of them that think that transgendering needs to start at an early age, okay? We are moving two bills, one from the Senate and one from the House, that you cannot start a transgendering process until you're 18 years old, okay? Now, I'm sorry, at 12 years old, I thought I wanted to be an astronaut. I did not end up being an astronaut, you know. At 10 years old, I wanted to be a president. I'm glad I didn't want to do that. But the idea is that I don't think that we should start that process at vulnerable age until they're adults, because they are sterilizing themselves and changing their bodies forever. And we're seeing a lot of people that are having regrets and suicidal tendencies after they've done it at an early age. We just want to make sure they're adults when they do it. I mean, it's not my job to tell you what to do with your body as an adult, unless it's going to harm me. That's why we have drunk driving and that kind of stuff. But to do it at an early age, when you're a child, you were too influential. Somebody's, you know, I don't like my peers. I hang out with boys better. I hang out with girls better than I do boys. Then I must be a girl, really. And so that is one of the things, as far as I see. And they had people there chanting, what was it? God must not love children, or something like that.
I couldn't understand it.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, at that age, the kid is still trying to figure out who they are as a person. They don't know. Carl at 12 wanted to be an astronaut. I wore parachute pants. But, yeah, that's a whole nother story. I'm glad they didn't sew those parachute pants on me and I had to wear those the rest of my life.
Yes, ma'am.
So just to offer another perspective.
Yes.
So how about instead of writing bills and going through all this to basically tell 12-year-olds that they don't know who they are, we incorporate some kind of bill or funding toward mental health to help 12-year-olds who are struggling with their identity, who very much may identify as the opposite gender of what they were assigned at birth as an adult, and at 12 years old you're telling them they don't have the right to have a voice, and then they commit suicide. Doctors are not performing sex changes on children.
They
are
are
not.
starting hormonal.
They are doing puberty
changes
blockers
to move them in that direction.
after lengthy therapy, after discussing it for years beforehand. It
And
is
we
not
are
an-
working on getting more money for the therapy and counseling and stuff like that. Yes.
Okay, so then what about Bullard's Senate bill that he wants to push through about defunding schools federally and making it a state issue? And let's not pretend like that's for anything other than making it to where Oklahoma schools can basically do whatever they want regarding homosexuality, transgender children, and not have to protect them.
I don't know Bullard's bill.
I don't either, but I know Bullard, and I don't think that bill's going to move.
Maybe not this year. The fact that it's been co-signed, it's been co-written, it's been endorsed. So if it's not moving this year, what about next year, or the year after that, or 5 years from now? You guys
I
are
can't
setting the
speak for
precedent.
5 years, but just where the Senate is right now, that's not going to go anywhere. And I can't speak for 5 years.
One of the things we have, I mean, I'm not going to mention his name. We have a senator that proposed 100 and some bills this year, and he had, you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
It was probably the one that always
Yeah.
puts out.
How many bills did he pass last year? One?
I don't think he got any done.
I mean, when I write a bill, it's Carl's idea. It comes more, and when I run it through a committee, then I've got approval of a committee. Most of the 100 and some bills that this one author's got won't even make it through committee. So when I write a bill, I've got me. Now, if you have co-authors on it, it makes it a little more powerful, but more than likely, it's my idea, and you'll have idealistic.
So,
And that's where we get into, we have a far spectrum, far right, far left.
one good thing that the House has as far as their rules, Carl can only file 8 bills. He can only run 8 bills. The Senate has no cap on what they can run. They can file 100 and some bills. And what you'll see is a lot of times senators go out there and they file bills for shock value. They file bills for political statement. And they know when they do it, it's not going to move forward, but it's a political statement. And I like the way the House does 8 bills. That way you are focused on 8 pieces of legislation and you work on it. You're not coming up with crazy ideas. You know, you only have 8, so they better be 8 good ideas. And that's the difference between the House and the Senate. And my first year in the Senate, I went kind of like a kid in a candy store. I don't have any limit. Oh, wow. After being in the House, I filed 60 bills. Now, they were good ideas. They wasn't crazy. Okay, some people thought they were bad ideas. But anyway, you can't do it. It's unmanageable. By the end of that year, I was so wore out and tired, I didn't care whether the bill passed or failed, because I didn't know where I was coming or going. You're presenting these bills in committees. I'm running up and down with a stack of bills and walking in committee. Well, what bill is this? What number are we on? It's just unmanageable logistically. And so you have senators, they just file it for shock value, for a press release, and they have no intention of moving it forward. And then you have committee chairmen, then goes through it when they're assigned to a committee, and they'll go, well, this is a crazy idea. I'm not even going to give it a hearing. And for Bullard, he's got to pick and choose when he negotiates with that committee chairman on what bills he actually wants heard, because they're going to say, no, we're not hearing this. Well, we at least hear this bill over here. And so that may be, as far as, it's kind of like the House's idea on this education deal. They come out with $800 million. Well, in reality, when we get to the end of the session, it's probably going to be narrowed down. And I use this term, it's a horse trade as far as trying to get something accomplished. So you go out there and say you want $10 million for this horse. You're not getting it, but you narrow it down. And I can't explain what Bullard's motivation, strategy, is he, asking $10 million for this Shetland pony because he wants this over here and he's just going to narrow it down when he's negotiating on getting bills heard. It's when I said it's a chess game down there, it is a chess game on getting what you want done.
You said earlier that it was crazy to think that like the government might try to enact things against cows, releasing methane gas. A year ago, it would have been crazy to think that the state of Oklahoma would overturn Roe v. Wade and take away women's right to choose what they do with their body. But then you say, I can't tell you what's going to happen in 5 years. These bills might seem petty now, but they're putting those ideas in people's head and making people go, oh, we can be state funded for education. We don't have to follow the federal government's idea of what's safe for kids if we fund ourselves. So it's not just throwing things out there to see what they can get away with. It's throwing things out there to let people like us know that they're an option. And it's dangerous for our children when you act like there's just, you know how many trans kids are in Alva? Anyone? Maybe 3 that identify as trans. So why are we focusing on these bills? And none of those kids are going to the doctor to go through hormone blockers or anything. They're just wearing different clothing and playing around with who they are as a person, and most of them suffered some sort of trauma that led them there. So why are we focusing so much on that?
Because we also have facilities and at groups that are moving in that direction to go ahead and do the transgens change earlier.
Who's moving them in that direction?
I have
What
a
group?
legislator in the body who has their kid moving in that direction, all right?
Like, how so though? I don't understand what you mean by moving. I think they're trying to force them to be
Or
transgender.
already doing they're already doing the hormonal at an earlier age.
Yeah, some kids get puberty blockers at a younger age when they identify, but the puberty blockers aren't permanent.
So, and you said there's 3 kids here.
I said maybe. I'm
Maybe,
gonna
just
get-
for example,
yeah.
there's 3 in Alva. And let's just say they're 10, 11, 12. What worries me as far as a policymaker and looking out for the best interest of everyone, what worries me is for that kid, and Carl used his example of being an astronaut and my crazy childhood. I'm a totally different person today. My values are different than I was when I was 12. What happens when that kid at 12 years old, at that time, he wants to transgender, or he wants to change, but when he's 30, he's like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I mean, I think everyone in this room can look back at their teenage years and say, man, I wasn't very bright. I shouldn't have done that. But whenever you're talking about changing your body and the surgeries, there's no going back. I mean, a tattoo you can get removed. Once you do this, there's no going back, and that's what concerns me, is allowing a 12-year-old to go into that portal to start getting changed. Well, they start taking the hormones. Well, that's a drug to alter your body or alter what you are.
12-year-olds
Development.
aren't taking hormones. They are taking puberty blockers. So a 12-year-old is not an assigned female at birth. 12-year-old is not taking testosterone at 12 to become a man. They're
So,
not.
They're taking 12, why are they doing it?
They're not doing that.
But you're taking a drug, a medicine to alter nature.
But
And
they're
you
not. At 12, they are not doing that.
Well, I'm gonna agree to disagree on this.
Yeah, I disagree, because
I mean, I just think below 18 is too young to start changing your sexuality, okay? I'm sorry, I'll disagree.
I do just want to throw something out, that you are making a 12-year-old girl have a child that they may not be ready to have. And I think that happens a lot more often than a sex change. I'm just going to throw it out there. Because that's life altering.
But also, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go down that. Okay. Anything else? Let's go back to funding. No. But see, that's what we get to deal with. We get to deal with all aspects. And we do appreciate the input, seriously. It informs us, it educates us, and we do appreciate it.
well, and for us, on a daily basis, and it doesn't matter whether it's transgender, whether it's education, or whether it's abortion, every issue that we vote on down there that comes up, we will have someone in our office that's for and that's against. Every issue.
I'll call you something else.
And for Carl and I, one thing the number one thing that we have to do is we listen to both sides.
Well, here.
And then we feel, and
Here.
there's a lot of crap that is said down there, that lies, and people just, you gotta filter through all that. And then you gotta decide what's best for our district, where does our district stand on this, and represent our district. And basically be a judge of both people coming in, both lobbyists coming in, both groups coming in, and pushing for or against. And then we have to take that information and say, okay, what does Northwest Oklahoma, how do they feel about this? How does it affect them? And then we do these I've got one of these every Friday, somewhere in the district. And come and talk to y'all, get feedback from you, and then I take it back to the Capitol and say, well, my people don't want that. Or my people want this. And that's why, Carl and I do town halls all summer long. It makes our job easy at the Capitol. It's not we're down there forcing our will and just what Carl wants or what I want. We take your message, but we hear at eggs and issues at the town halls, and we go, this is what Northwest Oklahoma wants. So, thank you for, if you wouldn't have said anything, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known. So, thank you for your input.
Jody? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. We would like to invite you to some of our excise equalization board meetings anytime so that you can see from our position exactly what the assessors and the county government.
When they say they'll be there and they call in 15 minutes before the meeting, cancel.
Who's this?
The
Company, corporation.
Happens all the time. We would like to see, we all quit, we come in there, we got, everybody's there, and they call it, they get you 3 times?
Yeah.
You get 3 times. We'll be already have our act together, county assessors there, county clerks there, excise board's there, equalization board's there. They call in maybe 5 minutes
Yeah,
before the meeting
sometimes.
starts.
5 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have our act together, we don't know what, we're not, in your time.
So I hate fees, but if I have an appointment at Dr. Newton's office and I don't show up, he charged me a fee.
We ought to be able to do
Yeah.
something.
Well, some doctors, I used to use.
Driver's license is one of them.
So I went for my checkup on my leg, last week, and they just posted a new deal, and if you miss your appointment, if you don't show up, it's a $50 charge to you.
Well, we need to
And it
do something.
incentivizes me not to miss my
Oh, it is.
appointments, but can you do something like that?
We can't,
Can we do something
You all
like that?
You guys can.
you guys
That
can't.
if you miss
No.
an appointment, give them some days, you have so long to cancel the meeting, and if you cancel 5 minutes before, it's a fee of whatever.
$1,500. These are multi-million-dollar companies.
But make it worth they show up, or it hurts if they don't show up.
Something. They know how to work the system, and, the people that make the rules
Well,
are
but
not familiar with it.
in my opinion, and this has been, their protest has been an issue since I've been elected, got elected in 2014. That's the first thing I've heard about, and I think it's part of their business plan, their business model.
There's no doubt about it.
I mean, last year, I was gonna run a bill, not last year, year before last, I was gonna run a bill, and then they said, well, Pfeiffer's got this bill, and it was a good bill. And I thought, well, okay, he'll take care of it. Well, I never got hurt, so, I mean,
But I
that's
wanna-
why I wanted to push.
And I want to back my statement. I think everyone has the right to protest their taxes.
Oh, yeah.
But they seem to be taken advantage of.
They've been the rules as far as you can bend.
And then some.
And they don't provide the board information on their side, actually, they don't, they throw out all these numbers, but they don't have any proof. And then, they know they're gonna get denied, and they just wanna go ahead and take it to the courts, and now they're wanting to skip all the protest and just go to the tax roll corrections.
Well, some of them
That's
are,
what they're doing.
some of them, that's their strategy.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know what the answer is, you guys write the bills and stuff.
Okay.
We just have to deal with it.
We'll work on that. Seriously, we will. Because that has been a huge issue. Anything else?
I want to bring up one other bill. It was actually supposed to have been on the floor yesterday, but we got to go to caucus to take care of the House stuff they're doing. It was for a constituent I had here in Alva, but this legislation will allow a parent to file on behalf of their minor a restraining order, a protection order. And I was shocked that you couldn't do that. But this bill's sitting on the floor agenda to be heard, so we're moving forward. That a parent can, or a guardian, in behalf of the minor, they can petition for a protective order. Which shocked me you couldn't do it to start with, but we're getting that fixed.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming. Thank you. I won't keep anyone much longer either, but we won't have a community coffee next month because we have our Citizens Reports Gala. And we have a few nominees in here today, so thank you guys so much. And if you need tickets, let us know. We will have our next community coffee April 21st, so you guys will come back again. So thank you again. And that will be hosted by REI at the tech center. So, all right, thank you guys so much.